Good morning, everyone. My name is Lorraine Cunningham, and I'd like to welcome you to the TransLink's December 2024 open board meeting. And thank you all for joining us virtually today. At this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order. And I'd like to start by saying that we respect the First Nations within the Metro Vancouver region for their stewardship of the land from time immemorial and acknowledge all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples for their continued resilience as the active members of the community for generations to come. We recognize that in planning and managing the region's transportation system, we have a role to play in supporting reconciliation. My first order of business in my opening remarks is to thank Harj Dhaliwal. Before we begin this meeting, I'd like to extend my thanks on behalf of the Board of Directors to Harj Dhaliwal for whose term is coming to a close at the end of this month. Harj has served 6 years with us, and we truly appreciate your unwavering commitment and dedication to advancing a region built on transportation excellence. Thank you, Harj, for your years of service, and we wish you nothing but the best in all your future endeavors. I'd also like to welcome Darlene Hyde, who is the newest member of the TransLink board starting in January of 2025. I will provide a full introduction in the new year, but in the meantime, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Darlene, who joins us as an observer in today's meeting. Before we proceed, are there any items in the consent agenda that a director wishes to remove from consent for discussion? Seeing none, then I'd now like to introduce Jennifer Chan, who will present today's safety moment. Jennifer?
Thank you, Lorraine. Today's safety moment is about escalators. The longest escalators in Western Canada are located at the Granville SkyTrain station in downtown Vancouver, stretching an impressive 115 feet. And these are just some of the many escalators across our system used by many thousands of commuters every day, so safety is paramount. Here are some tips drawn from Technical Safety BC's articles on escalator safety. First, and it sounds basic, but stand properly. Face forward and hold the handrail for stability. Always stand within the yellow lines. So that is, keep your feet away from the very sides. You want to avoid hazards, so keep loose clothing away from the sides to prevent them from getting caught. This time of year, that means being mindful of your scarves, your bootlaces, or any long or baggy jackets. And you never want to put your shopping bags on the steps, as that could also risk getting stuck on the sides of the exit plate. If you're traveling with children, teach them to hang on to the handrails. And if they're too small to hold the handrails, consider taking the elevator instead. Escalators aren't designed to accommodate wheeled items, so things like strollers or shopping carts shouldn't be used on the escalator, and you should be using the elevators instead with those items. Now, what to do in an emergency situation? If an escalator stops suddenly, hold the handrail and stabilize yourself. You can then walk in the same direction as the escalator was originally moving to exit safely. Escalator free falls or runaways are very uncommon, but if that does happen and the escalator you're riding starts to run away in the down direction, hold on to the handrail and brace yourself for the escalator coming to a stop. Escalator emergency braking can be sudden, so bracing yourself can prevent a fall when the brakes do apply. And if you reach the bottom landing before the escalator stops, step off the escalator and move away from the landing to accommodate other passengers needing to exit the escalator. TransLink has been actively upgrading escalators across the SkyTrain network to enhance safety and improve reliability. Some of our recent upgrades include smoother operation and braking systems, LED step lighting for better visibility, and variable speed options for energy efficiency. So these are improvements aimed to provide a safer and more efficient transit experience for all of our passengers. And that's the Safety Minute.
Jen, that was really good. Thank you very much. So we have a number of items to discuss today, and we have some public delegations that want to join us today. So let's start with our agenda. And if we can invite Robin Tavander into the meeting. Robin, can you hear us? Robin, are you there yet?
Robin, if you're able to take yourself off of mute, then we might be able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay.
That's all right. So welcome to the board meeting, and you have 5 minutes, and I ask that you please respect that time. We have several speakers today. So the floor is yours, and we'll give you about a 1-minute timing note so you can know that it's just about time to wrap up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Robin Tavender, and I have spoken several times about this issue. Now it has another couple of twists. To recap, we have a disabled family member with a ministry bus pass. They want to have a normal bus pass that looks and scans like everyone else's pass. They want to be able to use the different novelty passes. These are all services available to the public. The answer I have received in conversation is that this is a ministry issue because the ministry wants people with disabilities to carry a card with their name and birth date on it. I suspect that is really what they want. They are not so concerned about the design of the pass per se. This will mean that an enforcement officer can detain someone, demand a pass, and then demand confirmation that the individual using the pass is the person to whom the pass was issued. I can see this from an economic perspective. It simply says that a disabled individual's equal treatment is less important than the financial bottom line. It says that a disabled person's privacy is basically unimportant because the passes look different and scan differently from normal passes. The ministry passes, when scanned, show a date at the end of the year. It is true that some other passes also are issued on a similar basis and have a similar design, but this is not black and white. Certainly, these passes give a suggestion that someone may be in receipt of ministry assistance, which is itself a violation of privacy for bus drivers or transit police to have this information. Here are the two additional twists for our family member. The first is that they have a friend who has become a bus driver, and they now check every time before getting on the bus to see if it is their friend. If it is, they plan to say, "Oh, I thought it was you. I was just stopping because I thought it might be you to say hi, hello." And this is to avoid having to scan the pass in front of their friend. This is already causing a very serious psychological pressure, and blaming our family member would not be appropriate. They are simply trying to protect their privacy. Recently, our family member went out with some people, and they needed to take the bus. This is twist 2. My family member decided that they would not use the pass, so they tapped a card. This has now cost them $3.20, which they had to pay in order to protect their privacy and equality. Our family member said it felt much better riding the bus that way. They felt like a normal and valued member of the community. So now our family member knows what they are missing out when they are not treated equally. It's a very real perception, grounded, I think, in fact. There is now a specific financial dimension to this, the $3.20, and it is our view that this should be refunded. And the problem is, our family member now does not wish to use the bus with the ministry pass at all. We cannot afford to subsidize that. So now, knowing the difference, our family member says they do not really want to go out if they have to use this ministry pass. And every time our family member does, they now experience a depressed mood and a feeling of being the other. There is neurological evidence that social exclusion has serious neurological consequences, including cognitive effects like lack of ability to reason, lower self-esteem, and depressed mood. The literature on this may be less developed, but it is a sort of exclusion from the typical transit experience. And having now had both experiences in recent memory, our family member, as I have said, knows the difference. To sum up, I renew my family's request that our disabled member be given a normal pass that scans normally. We request a refund for the $3.20 that our family member spent to protect his right to privacy and equality. And I mean, we're not rich people, and I was once at Green College, UBC, and Thomas Cromwell, while he was still on the Supreme Court, said that we had serious problems with access to civil justice in Canada. The next year he came back, when he was off the bench, and my recollection is he said, there really is no access to civil justice in Canada unless you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on lawyers. We are not in that position. If we were, of course, we would just subsidize the pass for far less than the cost of litigation. So our view is that this is really something incumbent upon TransLink and the ministry to deal with, rather than looking at it from a litigation risk management perspective that says, these are poor people. They probably won't take us to court, because if we were rich people, we probably wouldn't be taking transit in the first place. So I thank you for your time and your renewed consideration of this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate you coming and sharing that information with us. Our next speaker is Dawn Scar. John Scar. We're just going to admit him into the meeting, and then we'll let John have a moment to present. So John, if you can take yourself off mute and let me know when you can hear us. John, can you hear me yet?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. John,
Can
this
you hear me
is
now?
you?
Yes, you can. Yes, it's me.
Okay. Welcome to our meeting. John, you have 5 minutes, and I ask that you respect that time for us today, and the floor is now yours.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is John Scar, and I've been with Handy Dart since 1997 as a driver, call taker, scheduler, dispatcher.
John, this is you?
Yes, it's me. Can you hear me?
Okay. John, I think there might be something in the background that you would need to turn off while you're presenting to us.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm trying. It didn't
Okay.
work. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. My name is John Scar, and I've been with Handy Dart since 1997 as a driver, call taker, scheduler, and dispatcher. I've asked for this time to bring to your attention the biggest problem at Handy Dart, the scheduling. Prior to amalgamation in 2009, I worked in North Vancouver, where buses moved between 24 and 28 clients a day. Rarely, if ever, did we use taxis. If we had too many ride requests, we used the taxi budget to put on more buses. This level of efficiency was attained excuse me, because regular riders were given what was known as subscriptions, rides built into the system that did not require the client to call every week. These were then assigned to the best bus route. Those bus routes picked up the same clients every day, creating not only solid templates of work, but meeting the care community's recommendation that cognitively impaired clients needed the security of dealing with familiar faces. This methodology also had the added benefit that the drivers got to know the geography, the house colors, and the clients, their needs, and their peccadillos. I bring this decade-old history to your attention so that you may compare it with the current state of Handy Dart scheduling. Since amalgamation in 2009, when Handy Dart's funding was frozen, scheduling has become more and more inefficient. I routinely check the number of clients transported per day by examining bus paperwork. Currently, on a normal day, each bus transports an average of 14 clients, much less than pre-amalgamation. Scheduling has become chaotic because our understaffed and overworked scheduling department is forced to rely on the computer software craftees to make the scheduling decisions. That the software makes inefficient decisions is demonstrated every day. I could give you any number of examples, but suffice to say, the buses are dead-headed, backtracked, run around in circles, and underutilized. Drivers and clients recognize this fact. Meanwhile, we watch taxis pick up and drop off our clients at the same locations we frequent, clients we know we could have transported. Trying to fix the bad scheduling, dispatchers have been trained to use taxis as the solution for every scheduling problem. Those problems are endemic. Management should recognize and fix the problem, starting with the software. Instead, their only solution is to use more taxis. Handy Dart drivers get 20 days of training and are on probation for 400 hours. Taxi drivers may get a few hours of training, but what are the consequences of their misdeeds? My friend Beth McKellar has created the Handy Dart Riders Alliance, has collected hundreds of taxi complaints with some very disappointing responses from the cab companies and the Handy Dart Customer Service Department. I think these complaints should be thoroughly investigated. Every taxi has an onboard camera. Now that politicians and the public have become aware of the overuse of taxis, managers have created a bunch of new bus runs, but failed to hire enough drivers to cover them. I'm not privy to the statistics, but it looks like the management company is using taxis more than ever. In Access Transit's defense, they have organized meetings between drivers, office workers, and 2 consulting firms. However, will it be another 14 years before something is done? Privatization has not found cost savings, but has greatly decreased efficiency. What should be a social service should not be run for profit. Proper scheduling put more clients on buses that prefer transportation and greatly reduce the reliance on taxis. That would be the best use of taxpayers' money. I believe it is time to audit the system and end this waste. Thank you for your time and attention.
John, thank you very much for coming and presenting, and I appreciate the time that you took to prepare for that. All right, the next guest that we have for our meeting is Anton van Walraven. And Anton, if you can let me know when you're able to hear us. Anton, are you there? You need to probably take yourself off mute. Anton, can you hear us? Hello?
Chair Anton's in the meeting, but I think he's just still on mute.
Thank you. Anton, if you can take yourself off mute. Perhaps we should move to the next speaker.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Hello.
Are you here? Okay, great.
Yeah, the instructions were not really clear that I.
Oh,
get
okay.
clear.
Well, we'll
Yeah,
look at
so-
that then. Thank you for that feedback, Anton.
Okay.
So the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, and I appreciate if you would
yeah.
respect that time. Thank you.
I will. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Anton van Walraven. I'm with the Concerned Citizens Bowen on Bowen Island. We work for the protection of Atoll Catsum House Sound. Since 2015, we have been opposing the Woodfibre LNG project at Squamish. I've no doubt you're aware that last year, September 2023, misleading LNG advertisements suggesting that BC LNG will bring down global emissions started to appear on TransLink buses and SkyTrain stations. The advertisements were misleading at 3 different levels. A, there isn't a sufficient body of scientific evidence that currently supports the claim. 2, in an attempt to confuse the public, the ad's graphic design and color mimicked that of provincial and federal Green Party's branding. 3, advertiser was only mentioned as Canada Action and not by Canada Action Coalition Ltd. Canada Action Coalition Ltd received 98% of its last year's revenue from oil and gas industry sponsorships. Basically, the company is used to conceal who's really behind the advertisements. What has happened since? You would expect from a public entity like TransLink that it would be prepared for such circumstances and would act in public interest. That would have meant identify advertisements as misleading through an internal pre-clearance process. If misleading, ads still slip through, and this is brought to TransLink's attention, remove ads quickly. If a third party does sales and management of advertisement space, same rules apply with penalties for non-compliance. TransLink currently works with Lamar Advertising to market its advertisement spaces. I've requested TransLink's Director of Commercial Programs and Partnerships twice for TransLink's or Lamar's ad approval process. And twice the response has been, I quote, "It remains TransLink's position that ad standards is an appropriate authority to help determine the acceptability of advertising claims." Which brings up the question, is ad standards able to do so? Can it meet the criteria of proper pre-clearance, quick identification of misleading content after the fact, order for quick removal if needed within 2 weeks? Ad standards cannot. It offers pre-clearance but not for fossil fuels advertisements. It doesn't offer a fast-track process of 2 weeks or shorter. Instead, it took ad standards 4 months to come to a decision on the misleading BC LNG ads. It took another 3 months to communicate this to the complainants and the advertiser. But then the damage was already done, and TransLink could have pulled the ads because it was receiving $20,000 at the time to renew the advertising time. But here comes the kicker. Ad standards screamed murder when one of the 19 complainants, obviously fed up with the wait, leaked the non-final decision to the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment, which subsequently informed the media. Ad Standard decided from there on to side with the advertiser, and after the appeal process was done, only to communicate the final decision to the advertiser, leaving us all in limbo. Public trust in our democratic and public institutions doesn't collapse suddenly. Instead, it dies by 1,000 cuts. And that's every time those who have the power to do so don't address what must be addressed. Every such instance I spoke about just now, where something went wrong and wasn't addressed, is one of those cuts. Therefore, I'm asking the board to direct TransLink's CEO to take action on this case and, 1, review this case, make a public statement, and advertise a correction notice on those vehicles and properties used in the misleading BC LNG ad campaign. 2, review and the ad standards performance and if it still meets the needs of TransLink. 3, review the functioning of Lamar advertisement. Note that Lamar advertisement has since it learned from all this, hasn't learned from all this and continues to do business with Canada Action Ltd. Its ads are currently on several BC Transit buses in Victoria. 4, review the true cost of advertisement on TransLink vehicles and how it affects ridership numbers and fare revenue. 5, formulate strong criteria to ensure that public interest and that of TransLink is protected, and incorporate those into TransLink's corporate policy for advertisements on TransLink vehicles and transit property. That ends my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Sorry, I put myself on mute. Thank you very much, Anton, for your presentation, and someone from TransLink will be in contact with you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stanley Lee, and we're just going to admit them into the room, and then we will begin with Stanley. Stanley, can you hear me yet? You'll have to take yourself off mute. As soon as you can do that.
I wasn't sure if I needed to unmute myself or it was automatically unmuted, and I had to unmute the YouTube screen.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes. If you can respect that time, that would be great. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, board. My name is Stanley. I live in Vancouver, and I'm going to speak on perception of the latest report as someone who used to rely on public transit for 2 decades before resorting to driving my own vehicle. Although I would have appreciated it if the report was made available earlier to have a little bit more time to look at it. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes right now. I think I just have 2 points. One is regarding the whole TransLink fleet in terms of specifically buses. I think for Coast Mountain Bus Company and SkyTrain, the Canada line. So at least based on my observations with the report, there are understandably a lot of mentions about the next steps forward regarding the new SkyTrain extensions, although the budget or the actual spending situation and the projected completion dates, not to mention with the Broadway line's timeline to eventually go to UBC leaves a lot to be desired. But my main concerns are with the buses. In order for me to be encouraged to take public transit more often, the crowding issue and the reliability issue still has a lot more work to do. Granted, I'm sure your staff is already working very hard to recover from the COVID disruptions. And also I think there's massive population migration to the region as well. My comments on this front is regarding, at least my perception on the report is there's not a whole lot of mentions about how you guys are planning to manage your bus fleet in a situation to help alleviate the crowding. Granted, there is work to be done already on the HOV lanes, despite targeted oppositions by certain businesses and certain residents. Also, I have one more comment regarding your fare, how your fare system works. I think I recall you guys tried to do something regarding the three-zone fare system reform. I guess without much progress. So I would have loved to see something mentioned on how you plan to reform that system going forward, even though I do understand it's a politically sticky issue. And also, I would have loved to see if, let's say, your transfer duration, specifically right now, it's valid for 90 minutes, whereas in many other jurisdictions in North America, it's actually 2 hours. So those are my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stanley, for taking the time to come and speak to the board. Our next speaker, which we will admit now, is Nathan Davidovich, and Nathan is a regular presenter at the TransLink board and also the Mayor's Council. So he's experienced at taking himself off mute once he's been admitted. So Nathan, let us know when you're available.
Hello?
Hello, Nathan.
Do you
Welcome.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, you hear me now? Oh, okay.
Yes, we
Thank
can
you
hear
very
you.
much
So Nathan, you have 5 minutes, and if you can please respect that time, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair and members of the board. My name is Nathan Davidovich. I spoke to you a year ago on December the 6th, 2023, about the transit budget, and I expected some changes for the 2025 budget, but there are no changes. The budget is still only 66 pages, while the City of Vancouver budget is 545 pages. There are many ideas in the post at the City Hall Watch website on December 1, 2024. I'll read some of the ideas, and you can read the whole report on the City Hall Watch website. There is lack of details. Priorities are wrong. Example is the Surrey Langley SkyTrain is not the top transit project for Metro Vancouver or for BC. There is no proper targets. Clean BC targets will not be achieved. There is no proper analysis is being done or provided to the public, and even Chat GPT that they got a report from that, and it says gaps in transparency, governance, budgeting, and strategy, scant information on public engagement process. The 4% fare increase in your budget is it's continuation of the unfair 1984 fare structure. That's 40 years without changes and without any proper public consultation. We have the highest average fares in Canada. And on the side, I'll tell you also that TransLink has the highest operating cost per passenger, mainly because of the SkyTrain. Costs are about 40% higher than in Toronto, Calgary, and Victoria, at over $8 per passenger in 2023. The cost of the Marpole Transit Center was $498 million in 2023, and now it's $848 million, an increase of $350 million in 1 year, or 70% increase. Originally, this transit center was supposed to be open last year, but now it will not be open for probably another 3 or 4 years. So the actions that that I wanted the board to do is defer approval of the 2025 budget, find out what the priorities of the new minister and the new government, and amend the budget accordingly. We finally got a minister who's been around since 1991 and knows the history, or the sad history, of TransLink. So maybe he'll try to fix some things. And the third item, provide more details, similar municipal budget. And the fourth item is need proper public engagement on many items in the budget, especially on the 4% fare increase, which is unfair. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Nathan, for presenting to the board today. Appreciate your comments. And that wraps up our public delegations for today. I also just wanted to advise the board that there was a public delegate that wasn't able to speak at the last minute, but wanted to share with us that he had a very good experience in the Lost and Found department. And it's always nice to hear from customers that have had positive experience, and I just wanted to share that with the board. So that concludes this section of our agenda. Now we're going to move on to the CEO report. So Kevin.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here today. Before starting, I do also just want to take a moment to thank Director Harj Dhaliwal for his time and service on the TransLink board. So Harj, I just want to note my real appreciation for your commitment, your dedication to advancing transportation excellence in our region during your tenure on the board. And so on behalf of everyone at TransLink, it's been a real pleasure working with you, and we wish you all the best as you move on to your next chapter. So thank you, Harj. With that, I would also like to extend a warm welcome to our new board member starting next year, Darlene Hyde. So Darlene, really looking forward to working with you as well. In my report today, I'll be providing an update on our cost efficiency measures, including information on TransLink's fare enforcement education campaign and what we're doing with the Mark I SkyTrain cars that we are retiring. I'll also share how we're helping customers get to Vancouver's Taylor Swift concerts, some of the ways that we're ringing in the holiday season, and also what we're doing to keep our system prepared for that winter weather that may come our way. So next slide, please. As we come to the end of 2024, I've been really reflecting on what we've accomplished as an organization this year, really amidst our ongoing funding challenges. And so, you know, whether it's adding 85,000 new service hours to tackle overcrowding, launching the R6 Rapid Bus on one of our busiest corridors, advancing our real estate development program with our Broadway and Arbutus development, or converting our bus fleet to renewable diesel, we really continued to deliver for our customers each and every day. And I can't help but think about the ripple effect that this work has had on the broader region and in driving our economy forward. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, I had the real privilege to speak to members of the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade about just this. Our very bold vision for transit in Metro Vancouver really does include a future where transit and cycling and walking and rolling, those are the easiest and most reliable ways to get around. But achieving this vision will mean less congestion, a thriving economy, and greater access to opportunities for everyone, because I think we can all agree that TransLink isn't just about moving people from A to B. It really is a catalyst for a healthy, prosperous Metro Vancouver. And I see we're trying to get our slides back up, which is fine. I do want to note that we have a new minister, as noted. And so, you know, with continual work alongside the board and the Mayor's Council and all levels of government, we'll continue to work to secure a long-term sustainable funding model for transit in our region. We know that that's critical. I really look forward to ongoing collaboration with Minister Mike Farnworth, the new Minister of Transportation and Transit. And continuing our long-standing relationship with our partners is going to be key to addressing our current challenges, as well as delivering on our shared vision for a strong, well-connected region. And I know we're all committed to finding a solution to that. While this work continues, though, we're going to be doing everything in our power to tighten our belts and really put every dollar possible towards delivering service. And by the end of 2024, we will have implemented all the cost efficiency measures recommended in this year's independent efficiency review, something I'm very proud of. And later this morning, our CFO, Patrice Impey, she'll be presenting our 2025 budget, which really aligns with the annual committed savings that we brought forward in our management action plan. And so as we move forward, I really do want to reinforce our ongoing commitment to delivering excellent service for customers while minimizing expenses and achieving savings really whenever we can. I want to talk for a minute just about our fare evasion campaign. In early November, we launched a new customer education campaign that many of you and many members of the public have probably seen, really as part of our ongoing efforts to reduce fare evasion across the system. That campaign really focuses on helping customers understand how to pay their fares, which fare products to use, and how to access free or discounted transit passes if they qualify. Customers can see campaign materials, including digital screens, advertisements, platform posters, bus decals, door decals, and more, really throughout the transit system. And so this initiative really does complete the fare enforcement program, or complements the fare enforcement program that we introduced in August, which increased patrols across our network as part of our $90 million cost efficiency plan, really aimed at reducing fare evasion by $5 million each year. The fact is that transit fares, they play a very critical role in funding the delivery of transit services and ensuring that our system remains clean and well maintained. Next slide, please. As you may have heard, we're inviting organizations, municipalities, developers, and individuals to propose creative ideas for repurposing approximately 150 retiring Mark I SkyTrain cars. Successful bidders will fund the transportation and repurposing of the historic cars, with proposals being accepted until this Friday. Applications will reopen in the future as more Mark I vehicles retire from service. Since their introduction during Expo 86, these iconic trains have carried millions of customers and really become a symbol in Metro Vancouver. And finding new homes for the original fleet not only presents a unique opportunity to celebrate our region's transit history, but it also helps us make space for our new Mark V trains, which will begin entering service next year. These next generation cars will boost capacity and make SkyTrain more convenient, really allowing us to better serve customers in preparation for the upcoming Broadway, Subway, and Surrey-Langley SkyTrain extensions. Next slide, please. This week, if you haven't heard, Taylor Swift concludes her record-breaking Eras tour with 3 final concerts at BC Place, drawing tens of thousands of fans, including many first-time TransLink riders. And so we're really excited to celebrate alongside concert goers with unique experiences like a sing-along on C-Bus and Taylor Swift-themed flash mobs at the Stadium Chinatown station. Our frontline staff will be handing out Taylor Swift-inspired friendship bracelets to thank riders for choosing transit, and we'll be running special on-system announcements featuring safety tips and fun messages that I think the Swifties will appreciate. To ensure safe and smooth travel for those attending, we're increasing SkyTrain, bus, and C-Bus service on all 3 nights. We're also going to be running a special West Coast Express schedule on Saturday, including a post-concert train at midnight. And with so many people on the system, we, of course, will have extra employees, volunteers, and security on the system to help customers get where they need to go, and help will be available through our customer information line in over 300 languages. These shows will be extremely busy, and so we are, of course, encouraging customers to plan ahead, to allow extra travel time, and also to sign up for transit alerts to get those real-time updates. Next slide, please. And with the holiday season upon us, our iconic reindeer buses have returned to light up the streets of Metro Vancouver. And so a big thank you to Mike and the team at CMBC for bringing the reindeer to life this year and every year. Along with spreading holiday spirit, the buses will be collecting and delivering toys to families in need as part of our Toys for Tots program, which is now in its 39th year. To date, we've delivered more than 97,000 toys to the Lower Mainland Christmas Bureau, and we're on track to surpass 100,000 in 2024, which is a record year for us. And so customers who would like to donate to Toys for Tots are invited to participate by dropping off unwrapped toys at our TransLink Customer Service Center in Waterfront Station, at our SkyTrain Customer Assistance Counter at Commercial Broadway, and you can also drop them off at either C-Bus terminal. Our West Coast Express Santa train is also back for another year. That will be running on Saturday, December 14th, to help support those in need. And families can ride for free by donating a new unwrapped toy or making a cash donation, with all donations benefiting local communities. We're also continuing our annual United Way giving program, which runs until December 13th with a goal of matching or exceeding last year's donations of more than $262,000. It is, I've just got to say, truly inspiring to see the collective generosity of the TransLink enterprise really making a meaningful impact on thousands of lives across the region and the province. Next slide, please. As we know, the holiday season also marks the beginning of winter. And as temperatures are starting to get colder throughout Metro Vancouver, we are preparing our transit services for the season. Whenever freezing temperatures or snow are in the forecast, we call in additional staff and initiate a series of actions to help keep customers moving across the region. And these actions include things like spreading anti-ice solution on our trolley overhead wires, replacing articulated buses with 40-foot buses in some steep, slippery areas, running SkyTrain de-icer on the power rail to keep trains moving and trains overnight to keep the tracks clear, preventing ice buildup on SkyTrain doors with platform teams, salting and sanding entrances and walkways at transit hubs. And this morning, Mike McDaniel will be providing an update on our expansion of Michelin Grip D tires. Of course, we also work very closely with local municipalities to identify roads that are in the most need of clearing to ensure buses can keep moving and really get people where they need to go. And so thank you in advance to our incredible municipal partners across the region for their continued support and collaboration. During periods of winter weather, we really do encourage customers to really dress for the elements, wear proper footwear to avoid slips and falls. And to support this, we've launched a winter safety marketing campaign with advertisements on buses, SkyTrains, platforms, stations, and digital screens throughout the system, really reminding customers of important safety tips. We're really committed to keeping our customers moving this winter and really doing everything we can to provide safe service. Next slide, please. With that, just thank you so much for your time today, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks.
Kevin, thank you very much. And some of your update was kind of fun. So we'll see how our upcoming weekend goes with our big event this weekend. Any questions for Kevin in regards to his report? All right, seeing none, then I'll ask Sani Zain, President and General Manager of the BC Rapid Transit Company, to make his presentation to the board. Thank you, Sani.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Cunningham, and thank you, members of the board and members of the public who have joined us today. A lot, as usual, is going on at SkyTrain and BCRTC, and I'm happy to provide some highlights. Next slide, please. As usual, I will compile my comments under our three significant priorities. One is keeping our eye on delivering excellent service every day. The second one being making sure we are ready for our historic growth with SkyTrain growing at its most ambitious scale ever. And finally, doing all that while maintaining a healthy, motivated, and fulfilled team. Next slide, please. On the service side, our metrics and our KPIs remain very strong. I'm really happy to see how the team is performing every single day and providing the high quality, safe, reliable service that our customers have come to expect. I'll point out a few of these numbers. Our boardings this year are tracking about 7% higher than last year, which shows the continued demand as the region grows and housing density increases around our stations. We are seeing that translate into higher demand on rail transit systems. As it grows, we're maintaining excellent service delivery, higher than 99.5%. So we're able to provide that service that our residents, our students, our workers, our essential workers come to rely on every single day with a good level of customer satisfaction. You see that 8.1 score there, and excellent metrics related to our elevating devices. So our teams have done a fantastic job with the support of the board in renewing the equipment. Our equipment is now much more reliable with elevators and escalators now of a new vintage, and that's translating into more reliable service. Our on-time performance, you see the score there of 93.9, good score, but we'd like it to be better. So on the next slide, just a bit of a glimpse as to the things we're doing behind the scenes to make sure that our trains run on time. We are challenged a bit by some of our older trains. Kevin mentioned the Mark 1s and how much service they provided for us. The Mark 1s are also obviously more prone to failures, and so that challenges our on-time performance. And sometimes we have external factors like incidents on the system which impact our on-time performance. This year, we also have a specific challenge with the single tracking happening between Braid and Lougheed, allowing us less flexibility in how we run our trains and also challenging our on-time performance. So our teams did quite a few deep dives in the past quarter, and we've tweaked operations, for example, by channeling fewer trains through that single tracking zone, improving our go-slow zones, eliminating some of those, to allow us to recover some on-time performance, and that's translated into better results in the most recent months that we have. Next slide, please. Safety remains number one, and especially our customer safety. We are now promoting a campaign to make sure that our customers are as safe as they can be and are aware of the risks. We notice a lot of customer injuries, mainly minor injuries, but injuries nonetheless, on escalators, on elevators, slips, trips, and falls, as we call them. So we've launched this safety campaign to try to alert our customers to pay more attention in the areas in and around the stations where we see the most hazards. Next slide, please. As Kevin mentioned, we are also ready for winter. We always apply the previous year's lessons to be even better in the following year. This year, we're taking into account that single tracking section to make sure we have our equipment deployed where it needs to be. We've updated our staffing plan and our maintenance equipment plan, and making sure we have the adequate resourcing to be ready for any large storm that hits us this winter. Next slide, please. Moving to our future readiness, one of the most exciting next steps for us is a new vehicle maintenance shop, which is being built at the SkyTrain Edmonds yard. I mentioned last update that we opened our new guideway shop that allowed us to demolish the old shop and start really accelerate the construction of the new vehicle maintenance shop. The structural steel has now been erected. We had a steel topping ceremony a couple of weeks ago to mark that occasion. And the maintenance pits at this new maintenance shop that will be used to maintain the new longer Mark V trains have now been excavated. So we're seeing some good progress and looking forward to that facility coming online and expanding our maintenance capacity as our fleet grows. Next slide, please. Speaking of the Mark Vs, we have 3 of them now in our possession and undergoing rigorous testing. So train 1 is the one we've had the most. That one has progressed to passenger simulations, where we actually put weights on the train and run them to simulate loading under customer conditions. Trains 2 and train 3 are in various stages of readiness, and we'll be continuing that work through the early part of Q1 in 2025, with a view to bring those trains into service as early as we can, probably towards the end of the first quarter of next year. By then, we'll be having 1 new train per month as a rough estimate, and we should end next year with between 10 to 12 of those new Mark Vs in service, and we're very excited to see that progression of our fleet, and that will be hand in hand with the retirements of the Mark Is that we mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. Another really exciting piece of our future is the new control center. Previously, we've been showing you pictures from the outside of the building taking shape. Now we can show images of the inside of the building taking shape, which is a very exciting time. The workstations are being delivered, the systems are being installed. We're beginning to see what the future will look like for our control operators, and it's a very exciting time. We're allowing our control operators to tour the building as it develops and taking their input as well into the final touches of what the rooms will look like. All this is tracking towards opening early in 2026 in time for serving the new expanded SkyTrain system. Next slide, please. And speaking of the expansions, we all know that the tunneling portion of the Broadway subway project is complete, which means we now turn to the track works, the system works, the cabling, and of course the stations. And that's when the public begins to see the stations taking shape. We're beginning to see the inside look of escalators being installed, which begins to make the public-facing part of the project very real for us. So really exciting time. Our BCRTC teams are working with the provincial teams and, of course, TransLink as this project moves towards its second half for completion. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, we couldn't do anything without our phenomenal team. And one of the areas we focus on a lot is the safety and health of our team at BCRTC. A focus area in this quarter is ergonomics and reducing the risk of injuries by just paying more attention to how we sit, how we work, how we stretch. You can imagine a lot of the work in and around our trains and on the guideway is very arduous. And also for the office workers spending long hours at their workstations, we also see some ergonomics-related injuries. So we've launched a campaign which includes awareness raising, workshops, information for our workers to be aware of, and some exercises they can do to hopefully bring that awareness up and reduce the incidence of muscle pulls, back aches, arm aches, and those kinds of injuries that we do see quite a few of at BCRTC. Next slide, please. Always looking for the future and celebrating the present. We also had our Take Our Kids to Work Day in October. 60 kids participated for a full day. I was very thrilled to welcome two groups who came in, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And of course, as usual, they had a thrilling time looking behind the scenes at where their parents work at BCRTC, be it in the control room, in the rolling stock shop, and on the guideway. Very eye-opening. They always end the day with a buzz of excitement, having made new friends and really gained appreciation for the work that their parents do to keep the region moving. And we always hope we gain a few future employees by inspiring them at a young age. Next slide, please. And finally, on a maybe more serious note, we take a respectful workplace extremely seriously. We have launched renewed in-person training at BCRTC to focus on respectful workplace. One of the challenges we do have as we grow is a lot of newcomers joining BCRTC. And our message to our existing employees is to be the mentors, to be the examples, to set the expectations of what appropriate behavior looks like as we grow by hundreds of new employees. The in-person component of this has been very well received. It resulted in more conversational, more interactive sessions where people could open up and share experiences, and we're very pleased to see the reaction that we're getting as we roll out more respectful workplace training. I believe that was my last slide, Chair, and happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you very much, Sani. Does anyone have any questions for Sani? Jen.
Hi, Sani. Thank you so much for that presentation. It's lots of really helpful information. And I'm sorry to bring attention to something that was a little bit less positive in the written report that we received. I noted that there was a little increase in the physical assaults in SkyTrain for workers. And I know how much effort that you and your team put into worker safety in addition to public safety. So I just wondered if you might be able to speak to this. Is this an outlier situation, or is this something that you're actively reviewing?
Yeah, thank you. We tend to see these as clusters which come and go. So you're correct. This was a bit of a cluster. We always provide tremendous support for our employees, and usually for us, it's the STAs. If they are in a situation where they encounter an assault, we provide the support that they need and any crisis management that they need. And if they need the time off to recover, we of course accommodate that. We also provide a lot of training on de-escalation and how not to get involved in these kinds of incidents. We are not immune to some of the issues which are facing our society. And so sometimes we do end up in these situations with aggressive interactions or some low-level crime happening at the stations where our STAs get involved. We have not seen a cluster like this for a while, and we will definitely keep an eye on the trends. And hopefully this was just a blip, as you mentioned.
Thank you, Jen. Any other questions for Sani? Sani, I have curiosity, and that's about train 3 that you said arrived and we're assembling it. And I'm wondering, doesn't it arrive assembled? Like, how much time does it take to assemble a train that I thought, bought assembled?
Thank you, Chair. It does not arrive assembled. It is too long to transport in any way that we have. So the 5-car trains actually arrive in 5 pieces on 5 trucks, and they are shipped across the country by road from the Quebec and Ontario test track in Kingston, which is the final stop before here. So after it undergoes testing at Kingston, the train is disassembled, placed on trucks, shipped over, arrives at our yard, and then we assemble it in our yard. So that's a joint effort between our staff and the supplier, Alstom, to make sure the train is put back together again, and all the components are wired up and cabled up. And that's a very normal process since the Mark III days. As you can imagine, those trains cannot fit on a single truck or a single transport method. So that's how we traditionally transport trains. Maybe the bullet overemphasized the pulling it together. It's probably together now as we speak, and then the first stage of testing will be inside the yard, making sure that the train is functioning after it goes the very preliminary tests after assembly.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions for Sani? All right, so seeing none, we'll move on to the Coast Mountain Bus Company report, and that's from Mike McDaniel. Thank you, Mike.
Great, thank you, Chair, and good morning, members of the board and members of the public watching from home. Happy to be here to present my report to you today. Let's go to the next slide and we'll see the agenda. So lots of different updates today, the usual kind of service updates. As Mr. Quinn mentioned, I'll be talking a little bit more about some winter weather prep, as well as some advancements on our zero emission and an interesting innovation, another innovation from our engineering group in maintenance. So let's get to it. Next slide, please. So here, just first, an update on bus and handy dart service. First, for bus in Q3, we operated 99% of scheduled service, doing our best to keep up with the demand that is out there on the system, which is extensive. We announced this, of course, earlier. It seems like a long time ago, but fall service changes went in September. Changes include 70,000 additional service hours across more than 40 bus routes. You see a couple notes up there. We're, of course, very close to winter service changes that go into effect in about a month in early part of January. For handy dart, we saw 98% of requested trips delivered in Q3. This, of course, excludes client cancellations, which was flat to Q2, the quarter before. And lastly, on-time performance came in just around 91%. This is 1% higher than the previous quarter for handy dart. Next slide, please. So continuing on the theme that's been going for a while here, all across CBC, our teams are focused on winter prep, in addition to a number of the items previously discussed. I'm just going to give an update on 2. First is the Michelin Grip D tires. As you recall, we were testing these tires over this last 12 months. These tires are the same winter rating as our regular tires, but just with a more aggressive tread. And the testing over the last 12 months on 500 conventional buses, measuring things from wet, dry, snow, durability, conditions, fuel economy, they were all very positive. And as such, we've expanded our use of the Grip D tires this year to approximately 600 buses. This is about 40% of our fleet. And as the tire supplies increase, our ultimate goal is to have all of our drive axles on all of our conventional buses equipped with the Grip D tires over the next couple of years. And so that'll be exciting to get to that point in time, but a good expansion for this winter coming. Next slide, please. And another winter update here is actually just introducing the board now to our new articulated buses with a center drive axle. CMBC now has 16 of these new articulated buses that are not only a rear drive axle, but a center drive axle, essentially making them, I guess you would consider them, say, 4x4s, but of course, as there are more than that on an articulated bus, maybe think of it as a 4x6. Both the center and the rear drive axles gripping the road and driving the bus forward is expected to have, of course, increased performance on the roads when they're slippery. The buses will operate out of Burnaby Transit Center and will be strategically assigned to routes that are more challenging in winter conditions. This is the first time CMBC has operated these type of articulated buses, and we're looking forward to seeing how they perform. Both the Grip D and the articulated buses were highlighted in TransLink's Winter Readiness Media event last week, with all the other efforts that was mentioned earlier by Mr. Quinn. Next slide, please. So while winter is maybe our most exciting or dynamic season for the reasons mentioned, we can also have challenges with other seasons as well. And that leads me to the innovation I mentioned earlier from our engineering department that's going to make a good difference on a more comfortable environment for the shoulder season for our customers. As many of you probably have been on a bus during the spring and fall, weather can't quite decide whether it wants to be hot or cold or warm. And with AC, air conditioning, and heat sometimes on at the same time, it becomes a challenging thing to manage the environment. So in an effort to maintain steady and comfort in the environment, our engineers looked at this issue on one type of our bus that was maybe especially problematic for this. Working with the manufacturer, they identified a solution, and our maintenance teams will be implementing that solution in the new year, just in time for spring. This is on about 100 of our buses. The end result will be that it's more efficient. We're not heating and cooling at the same time. And the buses will do a better job at controlling the climate inside the bus for customers. So a nice innovation to hear, again, coming out of our engineering team. So kudos to that group. Next slide, please. So just moving forward with an update on our zero emission fleet, we've made more progress on the electric build out of Hamilton Transit Center and the installation of 26 chargers on 2 different bus tracks within the yard. We'll also continue to put new Nova LFSE Plus battery electric buses into service as they arrive. The written report that I submitted said there are 7 in service. There are now 9 in service out of 15, so things are moving quickly. The new LFSE Plus buses are part of the next generation of battery electric buses. They have an improved capacity, about 374 kilowatt hours, which is expected to meet a range of about 150 kilometers. And so with the 26 chargers now available at Hamilton, we are actually adding 7 more battery electric buses. Those have been ordered, and they are soon to arrive. They'll be in service in mid-2025. Port Coquitlam Transit Center is our next depot to support battery electric buses, followed by Marlborough Transit Center. Next slide, please. So as we plan for our zero emission fleet, we're also turning our attention to the future of our workforce. And many elements of our workforce planning are really the long game, and we're embracing that wholeheartedly. High school is when kids start thinking about their future careers more seriously. And to that end, we're investing time and effort into connecting with these kids and showing them what careers might look like at CMBC. What's depicted on the slide here is on November 15th, a few of our team from maintenance and HR at Vancouver Transit Center hosted a group of about 30 students from the Trades Foundations program. The students came from 7 different schools across 3 different school districts, and participated in a facility tour and a mechanic apprentice information session. The event was very well received by all involved. We hope to see some of those students back to CNBC in a few years, obviously in a different capacity. Next slide, please. Continuing on with the people side of things, I wanted to share small successes here we've seen relative to our occupational return to work program. As you may recall, CNBC made a significant update to our return to work program last year. This is a program that helps injured and ill employees return to work when they are ready. Research shows that, and it's proven that employees who are off work due to illness or injury should return to work as soon as they are able, as it helps them maintain their connection to their colleagues, their managers, and of course gets back to their regular routine. And the company can help workers return more quickly by offering alternative or modified duties as they're not able to return to their regular role early on. One of the main updates to our program last year was increase in communication between employees and their supervisors, and keeping the lines of communication open is most likely the largest contributor to helping employees get back to work more quickly. After about a year with the update, year and a little bit, we're now seeing positive trends in more and more workers accepting offers of modified alternate duties, and as they continue to recover. This is good news for everybody, and we will continue to help and support our employees as they return to work. Next slide, please. So this is my last update for you today, a new element that we're adding to our new operator training. We're continuing to embed education around equity, diversity, and inclusion in everything that we do at CNBC. The most recent example here is the creation of a new EDI module for our new operators to ensure that it's applicable and helpful for operators. We're focusing on day-to-day, real applicable things that they can do to embrace EDI in their interactions with customers and coworkers. For example, helping to support an atmosphere of kindness and respect using inclusive language, being mindful of accessibility and specific needs of our customers, and practicing cultural sensitivity. The module will include an e-learning and an in-person component, and will begin a pilot before the end of this year. And last slide, please. And I just end with a nice, very breathtaking view of Burnaby Transit Center taken by none other than our Director of Safety, Emergency Management and Environment, Derek Stewart, just to give you a nice inspirational picture of what sometimes our bus transit centers look like. That ends my report.
Great, Mike. Thank you very much. That's a beautiful picture. Any questions for Mike in regards to his report? Linda.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Michael, for your report. And that was a stunning photo, is a stunning photo. Just wanted to ask in regards to the feedback that was provided on from one of the delegations in regards to checking of passes. Is that a standard practice? And what, excuse me, what conversations have been had with the province around removing that need? Or is this actually a TransLink policy or Ghost Mountain, or does it come from the province?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mayor. Probably best directed to TransLink relative to kind of fare collection and the Compass system. And so that's probably best directed either to Kevin today or to somebody else that can answer that in the future.
Okay, but in terms of the training that you do, so you just talked about your EDI training.
Yeah, most of what I understand the speaker was talking about was probably a little more around policy and what the ministry is requiring in regards to passes for certain customers. So it's really more of a policy question. What I will say is that yes, we of course not just the new EDI module that we're bringing in, but other parts of our training is that we do obviously talk to our employees, all of our frontline employees, not just transit operators, but transit security and transit supervisors, about understanding very specific needs of all of our customers And that is part of our training as well. But I think the specifics of what the delegate was talking about was around policy, and that can probably come back as an answer at a future date.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may, Mary, sure. Thanks for your question. My understanding is that this is a ministry pass program. Olga and I have been kind of chatting offline, and so we'll get you more information on this that we'll bring back to the board on this topic, certainly as part of our response to this public delegate. But it is a ministry program, and we'll certainly be reaching out on this.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. I think that's that should be seen as a very old practice and something that's been, is not just unique to TransLink or the use of those passes. So I would appreciate more information. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mayor Buchanan. Any further questions in regards to Mike's report? All right, seeing none, I'm going to invite Chief Muir to share with us about transit police. So welcome, Suzanne, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone, members of the board and public joining us today. And I'm pleased to provide you with an update on some of the initiatives that are occurring here at Transit Police and our operations, investigative teams, transit safety, education, and outreach, along with our recent Enterprise Citizen Awards ceremony. Next slide, please. In addition to the regular daily patrols and responding to calls for service, patrol officers also engage in targeted projects across the transit system. I'd just like to highlight two of these examples for you today. The first, over several days in September and early October, Transit Police deployed additional resources to the areas surrounding Commercial Broadway, the busiest SkyTrain station, to address any issues of crime and disorder. During assigned days, multiple officer teams deployed around the station and surrounding area with an objective to prevent violence and enhance public safety. The project resulted in 11 arrests, 19 violation tickets, 10 fare infraction notices, and 16 liquor-related offenses. And arrests were also made on outstanding warrants, weapon possession, which included a knife, drugs, breach of court-ordered conditions, and cause of disturbance. The second project is another one initiated in mid-October, and it was to address individuals preventing access to bus shelters across the city after we received numerous complaints from the public. And over the course of 3 days, officers conducted Westminster, Surrey, Langley, and Maple Ridge. And the project resulted in 4 arrests for drug possession, 1 on an outstanding warrant, open liquor violations, and 16 subjects occupying bus stops were spoken to and offered resource, including blankets, gloves, and access to supports and shelter information. Next slide, please. We like to share and lots of progress with our CSOs. We are at that full complement of 24 officers out on the transit system. And really they're providing that high visibility presence at busy transit stations, bus loops, as well as conducting patrols on board trains. And the increase in fare enforcement and transit conduct and safety regulation enforcement in 2024 has been in part a direct result of these additional resources and presence of CSOs on the system. Next slide, please. This slide highlights just a couple of projects led by our crime suppression team that have now led to charge approval. The first project, and this incident was heavily covered by the media several weeks ago, and it involved individuals selling fentanyl disguised in the shape of dog treats. And there were positive results out of these project, or these dangerous substances have now been removed from the streets and our stations. And 2 individuals are facing a range of charges, including 10 counts of trafficking in a controlled substance, 4 counts of possession of a controlled substance for the purpose of trafficking, 2 counts of trafficking a firearm, and 4 counts of possession of a firearm without a license. The second, this project dates back to 2023. Many of these projects can take a longer period of time, but charges have now been approved against 11 individuals for trafficking in a controlled substance. And the project was conducted between August and October of 2023 and was focused on individuals trafficking in the immediate vicinity of the SkyTrain stations in Surrey. And assistance and coordination with other law enforcement agencies, as well as our BC Municipal Undercover program and team, supported charges being laid in this matter. Next slide, please. Something we're really passionate about and pleased to be conducting and throughout the fall of 2024, and a real focus for our community engagement team has been school outreach, really with an emphasis on middle and high school students who are using the transit system for the first time. And the goals of these presentations is to really educate students and faculty about the numerous safety resources available on each mode of transit, such as the yellow emergency strips, safety and security cabinets, emergency intercoms, frontline staff available to support, and other services available. We also encourage people to save the transit police number in their phones, the 877777, along with identify specific types of crimes. And we put an emphasis on sex offenses, on wanting touching, and what information to report to the police. And it's important that we be aware. And since September, our neighborhood police officers have presented at 14 different schools, with more scheduled in the weeks to come. Next slide, please. Very busy team. Our community engagement team has also been actively presenting in a number of other events and venues over recent weeks. And importantly, this has included 2 events for newcomers to Canada. Thank you, and they're scheduled in partnership with TransLink to coordinate these presentations. And it includes materials translated into multiple languages. We also had, as depicted, a public transit safety seminar held in partnership with the White Rock RCMP, and we have more scheduled prior to the end of the year. 2 presentations at local mosques and 1 presentation at a local seniors center. So we work really closely with our police and transit enterprise partners to reach as many diverse transit user groups as possible. Next slide, please. And on November 13th, ceremony took place here at their TransLink offices to recognize the valuable assistance that Transit Police receives from transit employees and citizens to help protect transit riders, transit staff, and the public. 8 people were recognized, including 2 Coast Mountain Bus and 2 BC Rapid Transit Company employees. And those incidents involving enterprise employees included a bus driver who assisted in returning a stolen electric bike, another bus driver who stopped his bus and assisted a mother and an infant in distress, a SkyTrain representative who has assisted with numerous police incidents investigations, and another SkyTrain attendant who located a high-risk missing person. So these are just a few of the incredible examples our enterprise employees our work are doing every day. And highlighting 2 of the citizens awards that were presented was a property manager who located a stolen vehicle with a dog actually trapped inside for numerous days, and a SkyTrain passenger who helped an officer arrest a man who was holding a knife. So very courageous actions on that individual's part. So, and citizens coming forward to assist a woman experienced a mental health crisis and allowed her to come to a place of safety. So, just looking at those are just incredible examples of courage and kindness and well-deserved awards for all those people identified. And again, I think it just really highlights, our TransLink employees and our transit community working together. Next slide, please. And welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Chief Muir. Are there any questions for Suzanne in relation to her report? I just have to say, Suzanne, that I'm very happy to see that we have a full complement of CSOs now. This is a project that we've been working on for a number of years, and it's really heartening to see that you've got that fully staffed up, and they're out in the system, and working around safety for the public. So thank you
Yeah,
for that.
thank you.
All right. So if there's no questions for Suzanne, then we're going to move to the section of our agenda where each of our committee chairs gives a brief report on their the work that the committees did this past cycle. So I'm going to call upon Alan Seckel first to do his report from the Finance and Audit Committee.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone, for the opportunity to report on a couple of meetings that the committee had leading up to today. We met together with representatives of the Finance Committee of the Mayor's Council on November 21st to consider the 2025 business plan, operating and capital budget, which is dealt with later in this agenda. And then we had our regular meeting last week. You've already heard a number of people report on the importance of safety at TransLink and all of its entities. And the committee is also engaged in that topic, and we receive regular safety briefings. As you can imagine, providing a safe system for both passengers and employees is of paramount importance to the entire enterprise, including the board. And each report that we receive includes a deeper dive into a specific aspect of safety. And this month, we explored the psychological safety of employees. We received our regular updates on the rail expansion program and the Broadway subway and Surrey Langley SkyTrain extensions. You've heard a little bit about that from CEOs and presidents in their reports. Safe to say that the projects that TransLink is delivering to support the expansion of particularly the SkyTrain through Broadway and to Surrey Langley, those projects being constructed by the province, but we have a number of support projects, and those projects that are underway are on track to be ready when those services open. We spent a little bit of time on sustainability in this meeting. We received a report on the 2024 sustainability initiatives, as well as those that are planned for 2025. In this context, sustainability is a broad topic. It's not just environmental, it's sustainability, but it's also social and economic sustainability, the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the future. Key accomplishments in 2024 that we learned about were the production of TransLink's first strategic energy management plan, the revision of the sustainability policy, development of a zero-emission fleet transition playbook, establishment of an enterprise resistance working group, and the implementation of year 2 actions under the Climate Action Plan. We also learned about what was planned for 2025, specifically revising the sustainability framework and developing the sustainability strategy, developing and implementing a carbon price policy, developing an enterprise resiliency framework, and advancing TransLink's strategic energy management projects. All that discussion led to the consideration of a sustainability policy, which is also on the agenda today. And the committee recommends to the board the adoption of that policy. Last couple of items, we considered and recommended to the board the 2025 development cost charges bylaw, which is also later on the agenda for today's meeting. And finally, we had received a report, a regular report on the number of bridges that TransLink is responsible for maintaining and operating in the region. And that's a regular part of our consent agenda. It's just to make sure that we keep our eye on the safety and maintenance of those other assets, as we tend to focus often on buses and trains. And that's my report to this meeting, Chair.
Thank you very much, Alan. Many of us were at that meeting, but for those who were not at that meeting, are there any questions for Alan in relation to his report? And of course, if you were at the meeting and you now have a new question, you're welcome to ask him that as well. So seeing none, then I'm going to move then to Andrea Reimer, who's the chair of our Planning, Communities and Communications chair report for her committee. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I'll be reporting out on 3 meetings. One was the board planning, the meeting that you just said the full name of on November 26th. And then two joint meetings, joint planning committee meetings with the Mayor's Council, which happened on October 16th and November 21st of this year. So two items which, of course, you can imagine would take up a fair amount of our time at this time of year. The first is the preparation for the investment plan, in this case, the 2025 investment plan and discussions related to that. The latter two meetings, November 21st and 26th, at both occasions, we did speak to the BC election results and commitments that have been made by the governing caucus and understanding how that might fit into our planning moving forward. We received the results of the 10th annual brand and reputation analysis survey, my favorite report that the committee receives during the year. Maybe it's bad to disclose I have a favorite report, but I do think it provides some great insight into the work we're doing. And then the rest of the agendas were the Q4 reports for a variety of areas. So I'll start with Indigenous relations. All of these are fulsome reports, so I've just sort of pulled a highlight from each. The Indigenous relations, as board members know, we've been engaged in the First Nations Transportation Planning Program for a while now. And the 609 route extension to Tsawwassen is one of our first sort of tangible moments of achievement on that program. So that was an exciting milestone to hit. Government relations and public affairs, I might highlight the transit summit that the Mayor's Council sponsored in Ottawa in late October. I was very lucky to be able to go as a board member. I had other commitments in Ottawa that week, so I was able to extend my time there and spend the day at the Transit Summit and hear about the challenges that transit agencies across the country are facing, which mirror ours quite substantively, but looking at the organization of the summit and the way that it was able to pull together support behind a declaration was really, it was a really great experience to be part of. We also had the customer experience quarterly report. I know we've talked about public art here. I wanted to draw the director's attention to an award that was received by TransLink from CUDA. And that award was for the Carry It Well temporary public art installation, which highlights and celebrates Afro-Canadian experiences and contributions in our local region here. Comms and marketing, communications and marketing's Q4 report. What I would love to highlight from there is that the West Coast Express has fully now committed to renewable diesel, reducing our emissions by 97%, and some great events held around that, as well as a number of other areas. And the final point I will note is the board correspondence Q3 report, as well as the first half of Q4, was reviewed and received by the committee. And that is my report, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Are there any questions for Andrea in regards to her 3 meetings that she reported out on? All right, seeing none then, I'm going to move to Jennifer Chan, the chair of the HR and Governance Committee, for her to make her report. Jen?
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be reporting on the activities of the HRGC on our meeting of November 26, 2024. So we received and discussed several reports, including the organization's quarterly Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Program update. On this, we heard about efforts from across the enterprise. And just to pick a few highlights, because there were too many things to share just now, we heard about progress from TransLink achieving a greater number of global equity and inclusion benchmarks. We heard about Metro Vancouver Transit Police's work in providing safety information for newcomers, BCRTC's partnership with Inclusion BC's Ability Mentorship Program, and CNBC's efforts to attract and retain skilled tradespeople, including through its Women in Trades initiative. So that's really just a very high-level snapshot. There were many more things in a very fulsome report on the organization's EDI efforts. We also received an update on the HR Digital Transformation Project, which will be introduced as a new software system that provides new capabilities for process improvements and efficiency across the enterprise. And we're very happy to learn that this project remains on time and is currently under budget. We also received the People and Culture Quarterly Report, and that included updates on a variety of topics, including staffing levels, talent acquisition, and employee health and wellness initiatives. And finally, we discussed the 2025 New Director Orientation Program.
Thank you, Jen. Are there any questions for Jen in regards to her report? Thank you. So I'm going to ask Harj Dhaliwal, who is going to make his final report as the chair of the Information Technology Committee. So Harj, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lorraine. I think you're going to make me cry by the end of the meeting, but I'm good. Good morning, everyone. Let me just start out by thanking Lorraine and Kevin for the kind words at the beginning of the meeting. 6 years have gone by very quickly indeed. There is a great deal of work going on at TransLink every day to provide a world-class public transit service, and I want to thank all of the staff members that work so hard every day to make this happen. There's countless people that work in the background that we never see or hear from, so thank you to all of them. I also wanted to welcome and congratulate Darlene as the incoming board member. The board has some very important work to do in the near and long-term future of the organization, and I am confident that it is in very good hands with all the board members and the expertise that they bring. From the IT committee meeting on November 27th, there was a number of reports received from management on technology programs, topics, and some key IT projects and investments. One of those Jen just mentioned was the HR digital transformation. It's going on in conjunction between HR and IT. And as Jen reported, the project is on time and under budget and will have a significant impact on the organization moving forward. We also received an update on IT portfolio that was provided to the committee. The projects are generally running on time and on budget, and there's a great deal of work going on behind the scenes to support all of the operating companies. And finally, just note that there's a lot of educational initiatives going on in the organization to train staff around phishing attacks and other cybersecurity initiatives. And obviously, continued vigilance is very important. And Lorraine, with that is my final report.
Thank you very much, Harj. And that's sad that it's your final report. Any questions for Harj in relation to his report? Okay, thank you. So seeing none, we're going to move on to the next section of our agenda, which is item number 11, and that's our 2025 business plan, operating, and capital budget. And we have a resolution here. We have a decision to make in relation to this presentation. So I'm going to ask Patrice Impey to provide us with the report from her and her team. And then we will consider the resolution that we have in front of us.
Great, thank you, and good morning. Patrice Impey, Chief Financial Officer at TransLink, and I'm also joined here today with Olga Kuznetsova, who's our Vice President of Financial Services. And maybe I would just start by thanking Olga and her team for leading this lengthy process to develop our business plan and budget, and really to thank the whole group of colleagues at TransLink who put in a significant effort given our unique financial situation this year. I think we've achieved a good balance between maintaining core services, continuing expansion, and achieving savings. We are looking for board approval of the 2025 business plan and operating and capital budgets, and that finalize that process for the year. As mentioned, we have a short presentation with a few highlights. You have the detail in your board package, and then we'd be happy to take any questions. So the 2025 budget plan and business plan and budget, it was developed, as Kevin had mentioned, within the context of a fairly uncertain future financial situation. And that continues from the pandemic years when relief funding was received from the province that supported TransLink and it's to continue its services. And that funding is secured through 2025. But as you know, the model is not sufficient to continue our existing operations unless we have a new model in place. So recognizing that the 2025 budget is focused on financial prudence and it incorporates cost reductions, as Kevin noted, there's no new headcount other than for expansion or regulatory purposes. Maybe just one other note before we jump in is we're going to continue, of course, to work with the province and senior government to identify a solution for the funding model and doing that through the 2025 investment plan. But just a reminder, it's the 2024 investment plan that is the improved document that guides and provides the direction for the 2025 budget. So this budget is that we're presenting, it is in alignment with that 2024 investment plan. So if you could go to the next slide, we'll start with just an update on ridership. So TransLink continues to have stronger ridership, with the second highest per capita ridership in Canada. And if you look at Canada and the US, TransLink has the fourth highest overall bus ridership and fifth highest rail ridership, despite being 22nd in population for all the urban areas. Next slide. This shows our forecast, and you can see that ridership continued to grow, but it's forecasted to exceed the projections in the 2024 investment plan, both for 2024 and also for 2025. And of course, that contributes positively to our fare revenue. Ridership is driven by a combination of population growth, employment, and service changes. And the service hours in 2025 are planned to include about 270,000 additional service hours over the 2024 budget. Next slide. So we'll move to the budget itself. The total budgeted revenue for 2025 is $2.4 billion. That's an increase of 15 million, or 0.6% from 2024. The primary funding, as you can see in the chart, in 2025 is from taxation sources. That includes property tax, fuel tax, and a couple of other regulatory revenues, and it makes up over 42% of the revenue. Ridership transit revenue is 31% and 16% from government transfers. Just as far as changes in 2025, the taxation revenue is up $24 million compared to the 2024 budget, while transit revenues are up $82 million. Compared to the 2024 budget. These are offset by a reduction in government transfers of 92 million, and that's largely due to the timing, lower spending on capital projects in 2025 compared to 2024. Next slide. This speaks to the expenditure side, and you can see that the expansion and inflation are the key drivers of the 2025 expenses. Operating expenses up. Our expenses are up 137.6 million above 2024, primarily by labor rate increases and inflation, which is 102 million of that, and then 34 million for service expansion. And that expansion is in line with the 2024 investment plan. The increase in costs are partially offset by 67.4 million in cost reductions, as Kevin mentioned, exceeding the management actions in response to the EY efficiency review and a deferral of some costs. Given that expenses are growing faster than revenues this year, the budget does project a deficit of 72 million compared to a surplus in 2024. Next slide. So just an update on our capital program. We continue to invest capital into expansion plans that were outlined in the 2024 investment plan. The total capital program of 1.2 billion includes funding to support rail expansion, local infrastructure for cycling, walking, and roads through the cost-sharing programs that we have with municipalities, and then new projects that support our bus service, and that includes the Marple Transit Center and replacement buses. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, we're continuing to navigate the financial uncertainties until we resolve that structural gap with the 2025 investment plan. And I will just note that our liquidity is stable, and that's thanks to the previous provincial relief funding that is already secured for 2025, and that ensures that we can meet our financial policy limits in 2025. But again, reiterating that we need that long-term solution, otherwise we will have a funding shortfall in 2026. And we are going to, with this, we are going to meet be within the limits for our accumulated funding resources and our debt and interest indicators. And just a reminder, these indicators, we reflect our liquidity and our ability to manage and meet our financial obligations throughout 2025. So a last slide, just in summary. Go to the next slide. Again, the 2025 budget reflects stable ridership growth of 3% and 4% in 2024 and 25. It was developed reflecting the financial constraints and limited revenue sources until the next investment plan is approved. It includes cost reductions higher than those committed in the management action plan, providing some flexibility for uncertainties that may come our way this year. It focuses on delivery of core services and expansion planned in alignment with the 2024 investment plan. Other than that, there's no new initiatives, there's no new headcount other than for the planned expansion and regulatory requirements. And our capital program maintains the budget envelope and the priorities that were in line with the 2024 investment plan. And with that, we'll be happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you very much, Patrice. And while people are considering whether they have any questions, I just wanted to say how much we appreciate all the work that's gone into the preparation of this budget and the constant working at it to keep things as in control as possible, because I know it's a lot of hard work in an organization of this size and scope. Alan.
Patrice, I wonder if you could explain or elaborate on the connection between the 2024 investment plan and this capital and operating budget. Like, how do they interact?
No, that's a great question, particularly because we're spending so much time talking about the new investment plan. If you remember the planning framework for TransLink, we've got the 30-year transportation plan, and then which is sort of a visionary document. We have the 10-year Access for Everyone, which sets out priorities, but they're not funded. They're not fully funded. And it's the 10-year or the investment plan that specifies sort of the service levels, any expansion, and the funding. So it's a balanced plan. So the 2024 investment plan was sort of a bridge plan because of the unique situation last year with our funding. But that is the guiding document until there is a future investment plan. So the budget really lines up with that investment plan. That wasn't approved by both the Mayor's Council and the board. So really it's fulfilling that investment plan through the budget. We do the 2025 budget, it is in line with that 2024 investment plan. It has the additional service hours that were approved in the 2024 investment plan. The expenditure budget actually comes in lower than the anticipated levels in that 2024 plan. So it sort of sets the limit. We can be lower, and that's our, we have higher ridership, a little bit better revenue, and our expenses are lower than what was estimated in the plan. So we're in good shape there as well. And I mentioned that we do have a budget deficit in 2025 of 50 million, but that's actually below the estimate that was provided for in the 2024 investment plan. So we are actually doing better than that. So hopefully that, we are kind of in line or better than the 2024 plan limitations.
Thanks for the
answer.
answer.
The question. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Patrice.
Good question.
Thanks. Are there any other questions for Patrice or her team in relation to the budget, or not just the budget, but the business plan and budgets? As I said, we've had workshops on this and gone through a lot of this material with a fine-tooth comb. So I wasn't expecting that there'd be too much here, but it's your last chance before we call for the question in regards to approving the budget for the coming year. So seeing none, the resolution that's in your board package is that the board approves the proposed business plan, 2025 business plan operating and capital budget attached as attachment 1 in the report dated November 12th, entitled 2025 business plan operating and capital budget. That's a little repetitive, but that's okay. So can I have someone make that motion? Thank you, Alan. And a seconder? Any further questions or comments on that? So seeing none, then can I call for all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. Patrice, again, thank you and your team for all the work on this. And I know it wasn't just you, but I know your team led the work, and so thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 12, which is the 2025 development cost charges bylaw. And that again is for Patrice to lead. So Patrice, I'll turn the floor back to you.
Great, thank you. And this one is a fairly straightforward one. It is to establish the DCC rates beginning in January 2025, and it's coming to the board for approval because it requires the board to enact a bylaw to establish those rates. The rates are increased by inflation, and that's in accordance with the regulation. It also, the increase 4.3%, it's also in line with the 2024 investment plan. So similar to Alan's previous question, it does line up with the investment plan, but it's coming to the board because it does require bylaws in order to implement that change.
All right. So again, in your package on the full package, page 103, there is a resolution there. It's a two-part resolution. I don't need to read everything to you because you've all had a chance to review it. So the resolution is there. If I have no questions, and I'll have some. Oh, Harpinder, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, this is just more of an overall comment around DCCs, and it's a question also. Overall, I mean, we've had DCCs as a part of our revenue generation for quite a long time, and it's quite an ill-conceived revenue generating method. We have, over 2 decades of examples of how this exacerbates the housing crisis. It only adds to development costs overall, which ends up at the end user. We've also talked about various other options, by utilizing land value capture and things like that over the number of years. And, I think we need to, I just wanted to make a note that we need to take a serious effort on recognizing that. Of course, I'm not against this motion at this time because of the situation that we're in a difficult time when it comes to the budget. But at the same time, we need to utilize our all the ability that we have especially with the province and ourselves collectively to find better solutions where certain items where we can basically tax the land appreciation, which then reduces land speculation, which reduces overall costs. Not only generates revenue for us, reduces overall costs for development and encourages the right type of development, which is improvements. We're instead taxing the improvement part of it. So again, it's a conceptual concept. I know staff has kind of looked at some options here, but I wanted to make a strong point that we need to really take this seriously and go forward. But I'll be voting for this resolution here, but at the same time, I think we need to take that seriously. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Harpinder. So can I have someone make the motion that I referred to in this section of the agenda for the development cost charges? Thank you, Alan. And a seconder? Thank you, Jen. And all in favor? And any opposed? So that's carried. Thank you very much. So then we'll move on to the last decision, well, not the last, second to last, the revised enterprise sustainability policy. And that's going to be, again, led off by Patrice. Patrice, you're taking over this agenda. What's going on?
Yeah. Finishing us off here. Yeah, I just have a couple of comments, and then I've also got Ralph Nielsen here, who's our Director of Enterprise Sustainability, who can highlight some of the changes. But just as sort of an overview, in February 2021, the board approved a new sustainability framework and also requested staff to revisit our sustainability policy. It was last revised in 2017. So lots has happened since then across the region, whether it was the pandemic or population growth, and we've had 4 major climate change related events. So certainly time to revise that policy, and we're bringing that here to the board to recommend approval. It does reflect more, and I think Alan spoke about that with the FNA committee update, but it does reflect those long-term commitments towards safety, equity, reconciliation, and climate action. And really making sure that we've also got the sustained financial support to provide that public transportation, provide a safe and healthy work environment for our employees as well. So it captures all of that. So I'm going to pass it over to Ralph, who'll just highlight a few of the changes, and then we'll be open to questions.
Yeah, thank you, Patrice. I'd like to just talk about three key things. One is process by which we got here today. Then some of the key changes in the policy, and then finally the next steps. So in terms of process, we conducted a materiality assessment after we received direction from the board to revise the policy. That assessment surveyed 3 levels of government, members of the financial community, members of this board and the other boards within the enterprise, staff, suppliers, and non-government organizations. That materiality assessment told us some of the expectations that our interested parties had around sustainability. We compared that with trends that are happening in the funding landscape. So in other words, the emerging funding programs. We also looked at the sustainability standards and some of the other trends around sustainability within our sector. Through engagement across staff in the enterprise, we came up with some relatively significant changes to the policy, but changes that are more holistic about what the overall enterprise is really already doing to advance sustainability in the region and for our own operations. So I just like to highlight 3 of those. One, we've made an improved connection to the goals and the objectives and the intent and the strategic lenses of the regional transportation strategy. That is really about equity, affordability, accessibility, and carbon-free. So we've called that out explicitly in the policy changes. Second, we've reinforced a continued commitment around Indigenous reconciliation and serving equity-deserving groups in the regions, and really our commitment to be a partner in creating livable, healthy, robust, and sustainable communities in Metro Vancouver. The third one that I'd like to talk about is, as Patrice mentioned, continued pursuit of fiscal responsibility and also securing long-term stable funding. And of course, fiscal responsibility relates to keeping our assets in a state of good repair, which we've now included in the policy statement. But also aspects of resilience and working with our suppliers, and then proactively looking at any sustainability risks through the enterprise risk management process that you all engage in as well. And then finally, on our role as an employer, we've explicitly called out trying to create a more equitable, diverse, but also psychologically safe work environment. We know that those are pillars of increased retention and also increased recruitment, but also make our employee base and our overall enterprise stronger. So we know that this policy is much more holistic than the version in 2017, but it provides a nice, clear communication of our commitments to our staff and to our interested parties and all levels of government, our funders and policymakers around our commitment to create a sustainable transportation network, as well as be a partner in creating more healthy, sustainable communities that are prosperous in the region. So next steps are that we will continue to advance the sustainability strategy as directed by the board in 2021. But because of the materiality assessment and the development of this revised policy, we've also been directed to change the framework that was originally approved in 2021. So those 3 are intimately connected: the policy, the framework, and the strategy. And so those, the strategy and the framework will come back to this body in Q2 of 2025. And then finally, I'd really like to thank all the staff and the executive, the Finance and Audit Committee for providing us with really excellent strategic input that has really heightened and improved this overall policy to be much more holistic. So back to Patrice and the chair for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Patrice, did you have anything else you wanted to wrap up with before I take questions?
No, that's great.
Okay. All right. Andrea.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't actually have a question, but I did want to make a comment. I think so much of what boards discuss are strategic and tactical responses to context, and it is fairly rare that you get an opportunity to really discuss a policy like this that's transformative in what it's enabling. And in many cases, I know it's catching up to what we've been doing already in many of these fronts, but I do think it's these higher level policies that really determine the viscosity of how those tactical and strategic responses move. And this just opens up a lot more smooth movement on a whole range of fronts that I know we've all been pushing on. And I did want to recognize staff. I know this would be a substantial amount of work to get the policy aligned that way. And I know you made some changes even from the committee meeting. So I just want to appreciate all the effort to get it kind of into a digestible document that will be actionable, right? Like I think the challenge with these kinds of things is you want to put everything in and then it becomes unactionable because it's contradictory or not able to be used in a situation. So I think it's quite a masterful document, and I'm looking forward to having it as our guiding policy in these areas.
Thank you, Andrea. I can't agree more. I couldn't agree more. So I know it's been a lot of work, and Ralph is a very persistent gentleman when it comes to this work, and we really appreciate your guidance on as you work through this with us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions in regards to this before we call for the decision on the resolution that's in front of the board? Okay, so seeing none, the resolution reads that the board approves the revised enterprise sustainability policy attached as attachment 3 to the November 6th report titled Revised Enterprise Sustainability Policy. So can I have a mover? I assume Andrea would be all over this. And Jen, thank you very much. A seconded and all in favor? And any opposed? Thank you very much. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, our last item of business is our consent agenda. I didn't have anybody request anything come out of the consent agenda. So we have three different items in there. One is for approval, and that's the minutes of the September 25th, 2024 meeting. So I can have a motion to approve those minutes as presented. Thank you very much, Gordon and Harpinder. Thank you very much. And all in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Thank you. So can I have a motion to conclude our meeting? Thank you, Andrea, and seconder, and all in favor. So that we'll adjourn our meeting. So thank you all very much.